Dunkirk is not a movie about the Dunkirk evacuations, as strange as that may sound. It is instead a movie about survival and surviving the horrors of war. It doesn't matter what military operation it is telling the story of for its purposes. So I won't be rating it as a historical retelling. Instead, I'll be talking about the other aspects of this movie and whether or not it lives up to the hype. I'm not going to outline every moment of the plot or even the characters because that would be counterproductive to or enjoying this movie. I am just going to tell you what I thought of the movie now that I've finally seen it. I regretted missing it this summer, but I did end up getting something that was nothing like what I expected. If you're expecting your typical historical World War II movie about people standing up to the Nazis with lots of inspiring speeches and action scenes, or even people being glib or heroes, that this isn't really the movie that isn't the movie you're going to get. In fact, none of the major historical players are even featured. When they do feature Winston Churchill's speech about the evacuation of Dunkirk, they don't even use the radio recordings that we have of it. Instead, it's another character reading it. And our characters are very terse in the way that they're. This movie has realism and nightmare all over it. Despite its PG-13 rating, this is the most intense movie about war I have ever seen. And I've seen pretty much all of them, and that is definitely up there with movies like Saving Private Ryan and Paths of Glory. But the dialogue is very terse. One thing that has always bugged me in World War II movies in particular is that when you hear veterans of World War II talking, when they talk about what they did talk about while there, you'll hear them a lot of times talk about the silence or them looking at someone and seeing somebody do something. But then, and Hollywood will tend to dramatize that because the actors love adding words, but they'll mostly talk about. But when they quote somebody, it'll be mostly a terse statement that they're saying or something like that. And I always got the feeling that that's what the war did, though. Is it reduced everything to terse statements because you're thinking about survival, and there isn't a lot to say. This movie gets that right. It is very bare bones on the dialogue, and it's all the stronger for it. The characters come through starkly. They all are well-developed characters, but you're expected to watch them. This isn't the type of movie where you can play a game on your tablet or something like that while watching it and just use it for background noise. No, this movie demands that you actually watch it as a film. So please, if you're going to watch it as a film. It's not fair to judge it on any other way. This isn't a modern movie in many ways. It feels sort of timeless in that there isn't a ton of violence being shoved in your face, and that there isn't a buckets of blood or blown off limbs like a Saving Private Ryan or any recent military movie that I can think of that's about the cost of war, and yet it brings the cost of war home in so much stronger than any of those movies, mainly because it is so relentless and the situation seems so hopeless, and your characters are constantly going from one edge of your seat survival moment to the next. And I feel like if this movie was anything over its 146 minute, its 1 hour 46 minute runtime, it would fray the audience edges. And Christopher Nolan definitely cements his position as today's master of suspense. He is, in my opinion, Nolan and Hitchcock have very similar careers, and they are working in popular media but bringing art to the popular and using everything in their power to see just how much suspense an audience can take. And this is a perfect example of that. Everything is perfectly chosen. The Hans Zimmer's score it goes so perfectly blended with the sound effects that you don't even realize it's there half the time, and that's the beauty of it. I've watched the movie 3 times in the past day, and it takes a lot of thinking. There's a lot of mental juggling. This movie, and it just like, if this movie doesn't at least win at the Oscars, Best Editing and Best Sound Editing, and get a nomination for Best Original Score, then the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences is broken beyond repair. That's a fact. I haven't had much respect for the Oscars for years, but that'll be a sign to me that they've totally abandoned going after real artistic merit. This movie just takes a middle-of-the-road approach. You don't learn everything that you learn. Even I, knowing the history of Dunkirk, forgot it because this movie overwhelms all your senses. You are forced into this movie and you can't get out. I mean, it's that intense and that in your face, and it's just every single second is just white knuckles. There are a few times when you get a relief, but the relief will only be temporary. Just like it was for Humanity's War. It puts you in their mindset so well. The whole movie feels like you're in the middle of an otherworldly nightmare in addition to all this. This movie is just incredible. I mean, there's great realistic dogfighting action that really takes into consideration the limitations of the planes. There's all this stuff, and it all gels together in this movie that jumps around space and time, and it just expertly juggles these characters and just gives you a spectacle and brings home the horror. And just scenes with ships sinking are the best scenes of their kind I've ever seen in a film. And it just has this realism that it kind of reminds me in spirit of Dragnet, in that the characters don't say through dialogue, don't explain their jargon in dialogue. When they do have dialogue, it's terse and it's to the point, and it's what they would actually say in these situations. And Nolan trusts his audience to follow along and through context. If you don't know what they're talking about, through context, just latch on. I mean, you get one little piece of text at the beginning of one little caption at the beginning of the movie that tells you what the situation is. And one of the things that I love is how this abstract everything is. Everything is melted down to its core. Germans are never seen or mentioned by name. It's just the enemy. They're just the enemy, according to the opening caption, and it doesn't matter who these people are or who they are, because this is a universal construct that everyone can relate to. And yes, it helps that it's a pretty historically accurate telling of one of the turn points in world history, but it doesn't have. But it could be completely fictional, and it would still have the same impact. That just impact. I don't. That's my feeling is just that this didn't have to be about Dunkirk. It adds some layers and gives it a background and adds a texture to it with the uniforms and everything else, but it's a universal human experience. And it's been so long since we had one of those so artistically told in the cinema. This is just, I think you could show this to anywhere in the world, and I'm not even sure you would need subtitles or dubbed dialogue, because I'm pretty sure that if I saw this and if it were in, say, French, I would still follow it because everything's so universal. Nolan's other great choice was to either when he did feature name actors, have them in ways in which they're almost unrecognizable, or to use it, but in most of the main roles, to use unknown British character actors, which the movie is all the better for, because you're not thinking about seeing this guy in a World War II movie. You're seeing people, and he chose people that look like photos out of the 1940s. You know, most people today don't look like photos out of the 1940s. You see a movie star cast in a World War II movie, and he doesn't look like the person. And if he's based on a real person, you look at a photo of that person, he doesn't look like a person of that, and he doesn't look like anybody in that group. So you have that. You have the terse dialogue that makes it feel like the 1940s. You have everything about this feels authentic, and that's just extra work going on top of what is already an amazing movie, and what I think may be the best war movie I have ever seen. It's definitely the best movie about going through the experience of war that has ever been made. And with the expert direction and sound being taken to a whole nother level, if you want something that shows off a good sound system you have in your home, this is the movie for that. This just takes everything in the theatrical experience to a new level. And that is why I'm giving this movie 10 out of 10. This is a great movie everyone should see. If you want to understand what people went through in World War II, this is the movie to watch. So, see you in the new year.